on my way to go meet them. And when I'm in the taxi, this feeling comes over me. And I didn't know at the time, but I know it was the Holy Spirit now. Like at that point, I didn't know what it was. But I had this feeling like I heard this phrase, like your life is about to change forever. Okay. Sorry about the last video. It's kind of blurry. We're still figuring this out. So
it's only gonna get better.
It's only gonna get better. So we are gonna talk about how we met. That's a question we get asked a lot.
A lot, yeah.
And I think the reason why we get asked this question is really, how did a white girl end up with a Korean guy? I think that's really what they're asking.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about how we met because it is a really cool story. I believe it's a God story.
Yep.
And so do you want to go first?
Long time ago.
In a galaxy far away.
In South Korea, I was born 1979. Just gave away my age, but no, I went to a country I was serving in for a year. And during that time, the missionary...
You can say the name of that country. You think you can?
Yeah, but then it's neighboring, so it gives it away.
Okay.
Anyways, the missionary, she met some other missionaries, and she felt led to go visit that country, so we went.
Yeah, it was a country I was
10-day trip.
Yeah. So this was in 2006.
2006. Wow. Yeah.
I'm in a country in Asia, and you're in a country in Central Asia. And you take a trip.
Yes.
Don't point it out.
I didn't. Just looked.
Okay, that's Asia there. Okay. Asia's big. Okay, so I'm serving at the city in Asia, and you come with your missionary.
Yep. We're there for
serving under to visit. Okay.
We're there for 10 days. And so we go, and it's really hard to share with being so careful. Go ahead. You can just go for it.
I'll take it from here. Okay, so God called me to this particular country in Asia in 2006. And I was teaching English. I was teaching English at a kindergarten, but I also got connected with this Bible school that I was also teaching English at. And really interesting kind of a background to that, how we met. One day I was in my apartment and I was praying and I was asking God, what is the next step you have for me? Because I was at this point, I think I had been in this country about 5 or 6 months. And I had been studying language and I'd been teaching English, but I also had a lot of time on my hands. And so I wanted to do more. And so I was really praying and asking God, what is the more? Is there something else that you have for me here? And so I was in prayer and I got this phone call right after I prayed that prayer, like, what is the next thing you have for me, God? And I get this phone call from one of the students at the Bible school where I was teaching English, and they invited me to their graduation ceremony. And so I show up at the graduation ceremony and you were there.
Yes. Yeah. And I was just there as a guest of the guests. So it was kind of like I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
But actually that ceremony was supposed to happen 2 or 3 days before. And if it did, I wouldn't have been there. So that's another detail that God kind of, there was a schedule change there. So yeah, we were there and there was a group of students and there was this round, kind of like a U table and the guests were sitting, and it was expected that everyone share something or say
Yeah.
something, you know.
Yeah.
But as they were singing and sharing, I was blown away by their incredible love for God
Yeah.
and their, I don't know, their surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember them singing a song. If I should, I don't know, was it
It
like
was like, if I should
shed?
die,
If
like
I should
shed
die,
blood.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
like if I should shed blood and die, I would do it for Jesus. And I was like, oh my goodness, like
Yeah.
are we on that level? You know, like can
Yeah.
we, as Western missionaries say that? And I was blown away. And so it was a very Holy Spirit filled atmosphere, the best graduation I've ever been to by far.
Yeah.
And so it was in that context that we met.
Yeah. That's kind of cool
Mm.
that we met in an atmosphere of worship.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of cool because we love worship. We love worshiping.
Yeah.
Yeah, so funny story is that okay, we're in Asia, so there's a lot of Asian looking people. And he's sitting right, you're like kind of a couple chairs away from me.
Yeah.
And I didn't speak to him because I didn't think he could speak English. And so I just kind of ignored him. And he reached over and said, "Hi, I'm Danny."
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like perfect English. And so I was like, "Oh, nice to meet you. Where are you from?" He's like, "I'm from New Jersey." And
Mhm.
I'm like, "Okay, I'm really confused." But I was like, "Okay." And then I'm from Georgia, and we talked about that. But yeah.
And she didn't have her southern accent going on.
Did I not?
I don't think so. You turned
Okay,
it
I don't
off.
think I turned it off by then.
And I didn't have my Korean accent going on either, so I turned that off.
Um, yeah, so we met, and like Dan said, all of the people, so the people who are invited to this graduation ceremony were other teachers, but
Yeah.
also like kind of like
Supporters,
financial
just
supporters of the
sponsors,
school.
and yeah.
So they each had to go around and share something, say something to the students. And so when it came to Dan,
Yeah.
he decided to sing a song that
Yeah.
he had written. And he pulls out this, they gave you a guitar that was like
It
woefully out
was
of tune.
terrible. I spent like 5 minutes tuning it.
Yeah, but he plays the song that he wrote, and it was so heartfelt, and I was really impressed by that because I was like, I remember thinking like, okay, this guy is the real deal. Like he really does love Jesus. Like
Mhm.
I could see your passion, and I was impressed that you wrote that song. And so yeah.
So that song I wrote, it was in the country that I was in. I was doing prison ministry, and I wrote it over just a testimony of seeing what God was doing over the prisoners. So
Yeah.
the song goes, it's beautiful, all that you do.
Yeah.
I can see miracles around me every day because it's beautiful, all that you do.
Yeah.
As I was seeing the prisoners be transformed,
Yeah.
So I wrote that song, but then as I was listening to these students here and their desire to follow Jesus, I felt like, wow, it's beautiful here too.
Yeah.
And I just wrote it up real quick, and so I shared that. I felt like it was the right setting for it.
Yeah.
And then when it was Hannah's turn to share, she stood up and she just started bawling. Just like getting emotional and
Yeah.
started bawling, and I just felt like, wow, she has a beautiful heart. I felt like, oh, she really loves the Lord. She really loves these students, and that made an impression on me because I was like, wow, that's yeah. So
Yeah. So we impressed each other, but we weren't like,
no,
there was no like kind of like romantic anything
it
at
wasn't
that
like
point.
that,
We were
yeah.
just kind of like,
Yeah.
so after that, we went out to eat after the graduation. So we actually wound up at the same table.
Mhm.
And I am talking with this missionary couple that you're staying with.
Right. They're the friends of my
Right.
missionary.
And I'm sharing a little bit of my story, and you're eavesdropping,
Yes.
and you're like so intrigued.
It's because
by
it was
me.
about her mom.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
And that was and her journey to this country. But because of that, and because also I have a story, a testimony about my mom, I think that was really the draw. I was like, whoa, what's going on there? Kind of. So
Yeah. So I was talking with the missionary couple because they had a ministry going on in the city where I was. And like I told you before, I was praying about what else I could be doing. And so the more, so they had this ministry and they were telling me about it and they were really trying to recruit me.
yeah. Yeah.
But I was totally like interested because I was looking for something else to get involved in. And they're Korean older couple and they were like, let's meet again. And they wanted to treat me out to Korean food. And so we decided, I exchanged numbers with them and we were like, yeah, let's get together again and talk. And then I'm leaving and this
Yes.
guy pursues me, chases me down.
Not quite. But yes.
He follows me out of the restaurant and he asked for my email address.
Yes, I did. I did. I thought, oh, I may never see this person again. And I have a friend in Georgia too, and that I'm supposed to go see when I go back from missions. So I thought, oh yeah, are you gonna?
When you're in
Yeah,
Georgia,
when I'm in
you'll
Georgia.
just stop by.
I
'Cause
didn't realize
Georgia's-
how big Georgia was, but yeah. But yeah, that's how I got your email.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to remember. I think I did invite you to
Yeah, there was like
I had a
some
Bible
kinda-
study
yeah.
with other missionaries that I did once a week and I invited him to it, but you couldn't go.
I couldn't go because I'm
yeah.
following around the other missionaries. I wasn't able to.
Yeah. But still at this point we're just kind of like, not really, there wasn't like any flirtatious.
Yeah, no.
I didn't feel like, even asking for my email, I didn't really think anything of it really. And then then we arranged to meet. I arranged to meet with the missionary couple to go eat Korean food and talk about their ministry. And I remember it was a Friday because I remember it was the end of the week. And we arranged to meet at this restaurant. And this is where, yeah, it really gets fascinating. So I'm in the taxi on my way to go meet them. And when I'm in the taxi, this feeling comes over me. And I didn't know at the time, but I know it was the Holy Spirit now. Like at that point, I didn't know what it was. But I had this feeling like I heard this phrase, like your life is about to change forever. But I actually heard it in Southern.
Wow.
I actually heard it. Your life is fixing to change
Oh, wow.
forever. So yes, I used to say fixing to all the time. Do I still say that? I don't know if I
Here
say
and
that.
there.
Yeah. So I was raised in Georgia. I was raised in the South, and we say fixing to. We're fixing it. We're fixing to go here. We're fixing to do this. And the Holy Spirit speaks in a language that we can understand.
Yeah.
So he said, your life is fixing to change forever. And I actually kind of got scared. It was this moment of like, I don't know if I want my life to change. Like I was really content. I was so happy. I loved doing what I was doing. Like I was having the time of my life where I was. I loved it. And I was super content. I was not looking for any kind of change. And so when I heard that and I felt, it was like something I heard, but I also felt it. And it really just hit me in the core. I cannot explain that. And so I had this moment in the taxi and I kind of think, should I turn the taxi around? Like, should I get out? Because this is scary. But then, this dismissive part of me, I was like, like, what am I thinking? Like, what is this? This is ridiculous, and so I just kind of brush it off, but I will never forget that. Like, I definitely had that moment and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know that meant like I was about to meet my future husband, which I'd already met you, but this meeting was really special. So we actually met at KFC,
Mhm.
and met at KFC, and I'm there first
Mhm.
and I'm waiting, and you come in with the missionary lady.
Yeah.
And she comes in and she's like, I'm sorry, our plans have changed last minute. We have to go here and share and speak. So here's some money, and he's gonna take you out, and you guys, can talk about, missions or whatever
Yeah.
it was. And she left.
Yeah. So what was happening was I was very interested in this country. And so I was asking them a lot of questions, and they were sharing their story, but then they said, why don't you ask someone your age? So we're gonna meet her, and so ask her all those questions, And the plan was for all of us to go, but then right before that, I think the day before or something, they got invited to speak and share. Actually, my missionary got invited to speak and share about
Yeah.
her work.
Yeah.
And so then they were thinking, should we cancel the meeting, or should we can't not go to this? Because we only had a short time there,
Yeah.
And they decided to just do both. So they're like, Danny, you
Divide
go,
and
and
conquer.
yeah, Danny, you go. Here's the money, and
Yeah.
we'll go over here.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we met there, and then
Yeah, that kind of threw me off though, because I was totally expecting
the group.
the whole group
Yeah.
because of 4 people,
Yeah.
because it was the missionary lady and her husband, and then the missionary lady
Yeah.
that you were serving under, and
And me,
you.
yeah.
I was kind of expecting this whole group, and I think you were kind of expecting me to come with
Right.
this
Your driver.
driver. So there was
Yeah.
a guy that kind of, sometimes he would drive me around. That was part of his job at the school I worked. But I actually came by myself.
Right.
So we joke around that this was a God set up blind
Sure
date.
was. Yeah, it was.
Totally.
Totally.
So, but I remember not feeling weird about it.
Mhm.
Like I felt a peace about it. I wasn't like, okay, this is awkward," because that potentially could have been very awkward. But I didn't feel that way at all. And we started talking, struck up a conversation right away. And I think you asked like how my day went, and I immediately shared like something pretty personal. I had a conversation with my mom. My mom at the time had cancer, and so she was battling cancer, and I had talked with her that day on the phone, and it was just really hard. It was a very emotional time, and I felt a lot of like guilt and struggle with being so far away from her. And so I was sharing that with you, and that was kind of deep, kind of personal, but I'm pretty open. I share with people personally, like kind of deep personal things. And we just flowed with that.
Yeah.
And we decided to go for coffee first, because I think it was like 4 in the afternoon. It wasn't quite dinner time. So we went for coffee, and we sat there for, I don't know how long, an hour.
Do you remember what I ordered?
Yes. Got a hot chocolate.
Yeah.
We went to Starbucks. It was like Starbucks.
It was
right?
Starbucks. I didn't drink coffee at the time, so I just like I don't know what to get.
Yeah.
So I got hot chocolate.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted.
But I felt like, that showed me that you were secure enough in yourself to order hot chocolate, and not try to impress me with like this complicated coffee drink.
And then I think you got black coffee. No, did you get?
No, I got caramel macchiato.
Okay.
I remember that.
Okay.
That was my go-to drink at that time.
Yeah. Okay. Now it's black.
Now, yeah, sometimes I'll get a latte.
Okay.
I don't like a lot of sugar in my coffee. But yeah, so we talked, and it just flowed.
Yeah.
Like, one thing that looking back now, I think it's pretty amazing how open you were with the things that you shared with me, because you're not usually that way with
I'm not. Yeah, I'm Korean.
You're Korean. There's walls.
Walls
of protection.
I think it's because what you were sharing on that night of graduation at the restaurant, you were sharing bits and pieces of your journey
Yeah.
about your mom, and then again, like you just had a conversation with your mom, and that was, something that was, it was difficult, right?
Yeah.
It was a struggle, trying to obey God, but also realizing the things that your mom's going through. And I
Yeah.
think for me, I was on that journey, um, with my mom too, because my mom passed away, and there's a whole nother testimony there with that. But because of that, that was near and dear to my heart. So when you shared that, I think my heart was really open because God was healing my heart,
Yeah.
you know, in that area. And it was still,
That's
it
so
still needed,
fresh. Yeah.
yeah. And so I shared about that journey with my mom.
Mhm.
I just opened up and just shared all of it. And yeah, we just really connected, um, in that journey
Yeah.
with our
Yeah.
moms.
And so then after that, we went and had Korean food.
Mhm.
My first time, I think
What
my
was it?
first
Sundubu?
time ever. I think
Tofu
I
soup?
had done Korean barbecue
Yeah.
before, but it wasn't legit.
Yeah.
Like I think it wasn't legit.
Like a buffet or something?
No, it was weird.
Okay.
It was weird. But this place was like more,
It's a tofu restaurant, right?
yeah,
Sundubu.
yeah, there was sundubu and I was like, what is this?
And then I think kalbi
Yeah,
and then pajeon.
yes. And
So
and I could not eat the sundubu.
all my favorites.
That was too much for me. Um,
You like the kalbi though, I think. I'm pretty
yeah,
sure.
I mean,
Everyone
I
likes
think
kalbi. It's
everybody likes
sweet.
kabi, yeah. So the kabi was good, but the conversation at that, it really was amazing. Like I really felt the Lord's presence in that conversation. I'm not trying to be like over spiritualize this because I'm just being honest. Like I really felt the Lord's presence as we were sharing. We
Yeah.
were sharing our testimony of how we got to, the mission field and our journeys.
Yeah.
And it was so powerful. And we were just connecting. And I think at that point in the conversation, I started to feel like, okay, like what is
There's
God
something
doing?
here. Yeah.
What is God doing? Like, is this someone, you know, that God's highlighting for me? Is this somebody important? And but I also remember feeling like, wow, we're so different.
Yeah.
Like I come from a big family. I was homeschooled
In the
growing
South.
in the South. I'm white, American, you're Korean. Like I was thinking about a lot of the differences, and my fear actually was like, what are my parents gonna think?
Yeah.
Like that was my biggest fear, was like, I don't know if my parents are gonna be okay with this guy because you're just different from what I think they wanted for me or expected me to be with.
Totally different.
Totally different. Totally different.
Yep.
Yeah, what would you say about that conversation? What was going through your mind when we were having that conversation over sundubu and
yeah,
pajeon?
I think one, I was really enjoying my Korean food because in the country that I'm in, I was in,
Yeah,
there was no good Korean food. So that
No.
was really good. But no, I think, yeah, I would agree. It went deep really
Yeah.
quick, but it wasn't like a deep, like, let me get to know you so I can date you and
Yeah.
let me, flirt with you. It wasn't that. It was like, here's someone who really loves the Lord. Here's someone that has depth with Jesus, and she's living her life in a way that's honoring to him. And honestly, there's not a lot of people in their 20s, right?
Yeah.
Pursuing the Lord in that way,
Yeah.
And so I was very like, wow, this is awesome. Yeah, and I was feeling God present with us too. I was
Yeah.
feeling his presence, and I
Yeah.
was like, wow, this is really special. I don't know if anything's gonna come of it,
Yeah.
because I'm thinking like I'm leaving soon,
Yeah.
and you're gonna be here, and then even when we go back to the States, you're in Georgia and I'm in
Yeah.
Jersey. It's
Yeah.
far,
Yeah.
so it's like, is this gonna work? Is this God? I don't know,
Yeah.
So yeah, those things are going through my head at this point.
Yeah. So we probably were out for like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, I don't
I would
remember.
say it was a long
It went
time.
fast.
It went really fast, but it was a long time and
Yeah.
we really connected. I don't think I'd ever connected with somebody on that level before. And not another guy on that level before, let me just say it like that. And so we said, I had to go, and then we just said to each other, like, let's keep in touch.
Yeah.
And you had my email address. And so, and then soon after that, you went back to where you were serving. And, I was in my city and we just emailed each other. But I remember it's kind of funny. So I had this moment with the Holy Spirit on the way to meet you. And then on the way back, I was in the subway on the way back from this meeting. And I remember it felt like my heart was burning in my chest. Like that's the only way I can experience or like describe that experience was my heart felt like it was literally burning.
Whoa.
I never had that experience. And I was kind of like trying to figure it out. I'm like, why do I feel this way?
What's going
this
on?
is weird. I could not hardly sleep that night. I was like tossing and turning and I was just praying and I was like, Lord, like, I'm just the whole time I'm just like, God, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I remember praying like, if he is not the one for me, then take this from me. Like, I don't want to spend the next week, 2 weeks, month, 3 months being like, is he the one? Like, I need to focus here. Like, I'm on mission. Like, I'm here to be on missions. And so I did not want any distractions. I remember praying that. I was like, Lord, if this is just a distraction. And so I was like, take it from me, Lord, if there's any, because I was feeling very attracted to you at that point. Because I just, really, I was hearing your journey and your story. And it was inspiring to me. It was challenging. And I just felt like we're connecting. I'm like, here's a guy that really is a real deal, loves Jesus. And that's what I'm looking for. But I wasn't at that point, I wasn't like looking, I wasn't like, and so, yeah, I was just really praying. And then we emailed each other. You didn't have great access to internet where you were.
Yeah, so in the country I was in, you have to log in.
You had to go somewhere. You had to go out of your house.
Yeah,
right?
But I mean, even when I had access, you have to log in and then like it does a dial-in thing and it's really slow. And and then you have to pay by the minute, so couldn't be on long. So but then I actually had to leave that house and I was at a different house that I was renting. And so I had to go to a restaurant to access the internet or go to an internet cafe.
Yeah.
Which it's so I have to like hike.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Because there was times where I didn't hear from you for like a week or so. And I would be like, what's going on? Like, maybe he's not interested.
No.
But it was really that you didn't have a lot of access.
I didn't have access and it was far to get to and there was things going on and I was I was in a different place, I guess. So yeah, anyways. But yeah, I left with the question of like, God, is this you?
Yeah.
Is there something here? Because I said the same thing, like if it's not, then I don't want to think about this person, like she's here and I'm there and it just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
But I did say like, God, if it is you, then let it be, let it happen. And another thing is before I went, I fasted and prayed with a friend like a year before I went. And one of the promises that God gave me, there's different promises. One was like my dad's salvation, my grandmother's salvation. He's gonna clarify my path in life, and he was doing all those things. And one of the things was like, after this year of serving, I'm gonna meet my partner, my wife, So and this was about that year marker, and it was like, well, is she the one? Could she be the one? Is she? I was like asking,
Yeah.
So I was just bringing that before the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were emailing back and forth, and it felt like a continuation of our blind
Conversations.
date
Yeah.
conversation where we're just sharing more about our journey with the Lord, and we would kind of like, what is God teaching you? What is God showing you? And we would share those kind of
Yeah.
things. And so I remember I think this was the confirming
Yeah.
part. So maybe you can share about you were fasting for me or something like that. Can't remember all the details.
Yeah, I was fasting. I was asking God, like,
Yeah.
is she my wife? I was really just, I don't want to, mess around. So I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not just trying to date somebody or whatever. So I'm like,
Yeah.
is she is or not? And so
Yeah.
I was fasting. And on that first day, I fasted 3 days. And the first day, God spoke Psalm 37:4. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. And I wrestled with that because I was like, God, have I really been a delight to you? This year I felt like, man, I could have done so many things better. And the Lord just assured me, like, yeah, you have delighted in me because you followed me. You've done what I've asked, and you're here, you're present. So it's like, what's in your heart? And then I started sharing with him, and it was reminding God the promises he already gave me before I left. It was like my father's salvation, my grandmother's salvation, my mission in life, and a wife, like to do this with. And that day I felt like God say, she's your wife. And I was like, whoa, really? I was like, really? And then the next day I went to a gathering. There was a speaker, a pastor from England that came, and his message was, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. And I was like, oh my.
Wow.
So that was like, okay, confirmation number 2.
Yeah.
And the third day I fasted, and I felt the peace, and I was like, from that point I was like, all right, Hannah's gonna be my wife. Like I was just, the Lord spoke, the Lord confirmed it. I'm done fasting. I'm hungry. I'm gonna go eat. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't need to fast anymore. I'm good. And
Yeah.
so from that point, I never looked back and
Mhm.
never doubted that you would be my wife.
But then you got an email from
And then I got an email from Hannah because I went to check email, and then it was an email of all these verses about how the Father delights in his children and loves to give them good and perfect gifts. And I was like, what? She's confirming what I just heard, So I was like, wow, like, yeah.
Because
So
I didn't know any of that. And I think we were kind of like, our emails were kind of like, what is God showing you?
yeah.
And at that week, God was showing me all these scriptures about delight. And I think Psalm 37:4 was in there, but then all these other scriptures that talk about how God delights in us. And so so that was like 3 major confirmations.
Yeah, that was.
You fasted 3 days, 3 major confirmations. So you were sure. You were sure that I was the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
But I didn't know.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure yet. I was still praying. But so I didn't really know your intentions though until we had
a Skype conversation. Remember Skype?
You guys remember Skype?
Does that exist anymore?
I don't know.
Okay, anyways.
And we tried to talk on the phone, but the connection was really bad. So we wound up chatting. We were chatting with each other on Skype.
And
You wrote the famous words.
Yeah. I'm very fond of you.
That was his, I like you. He said, I'm very fond of you.
That was making my intentions known. I was trying to be a gentleman.
You were a gentleman.
Yeah, so
that really did speak to me.
Wow.
Because I like British literature.
And is that how they talk? I'm quite fond of you.
I'm very fond of you.
Oh. You're most agreeable.
Yeah. So he said that, and I was like, oh, okay. So he does like me.
Yeah.
And you actually said, like, I believe you're the one.
Oh, did I? Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember saying
that. Yeah. He actually said, like, I believe you're the one.
You're the one.
And I kind of knew it. I kind of just knew it.
Yeah. But it's a crazy thing because I was really nervous because I'm like, I don't want to be one of those crazy guys that say, like, I prayed and God told me you're the one. and then they're
Right.
like, nope, I don't think so. And then you
Right.
get freaked out, but
Because
yeah,
there are those weird people out
there are.
there that
Don't be that
God
person.
spoke to them or they had a dream. It's like you don't want to be those people, but God really did speak to you.
Did.
I really believe
I
that.
really, yeah.
And he was speaking to me too. And I think um so I really felt like it was right, that you were the one, but I still had fear. I still had a lot of
Yeah,
fear.
naturally. Yeah.
Um I think the fear was mainly like, how are my parents?
Yeah. What are my parents
What
gonna
are my
say?
parents gonna say? And
Yeah,
but
sure.
also, of course, like marriage is a big deal,
It
and
is.
I
Yeah.
don't want to mess this. I don't want to,
Yeah.
get this wrong. And so I decided to fast as well
Mhm.
and pray after that conversation.
Mhm.
I did not fast three. I fasted one day.
Okay. Well done.
Fast 3 days. Um,
You didn't need to.
yeah, and it wasn't, there was no like pie in the sky sign for me. It was just, I just knew, like in my heart, I just knew, and I just felt like the Lord was like, this is my gift to you,
Yeah.
and this is my promise. And the Lord had given me a promise years before. And I had this encounter with God years before where I was outside walking, and it was like clear sky. It had not rained. It was clear sky, and I saw a rainbow in the sky, which was really miraculous.
Yeah.
Because it had not rained. I mean, the sky was blue, but I saw a rainbow, and it was clear as day. And that was a time when I was really asking and praying for a godly husband. And I was asking the Lord, like, I do want a husband, and this is a dream in my heart. I do want to get married. I do want to have kids. I want to have a family.
Yeah.
And I saw that rainbow, and I just knew it was the Lord's like promise to me that you will get married, you will have a godly husband. And so when I was praying about that, I just really felt like the Lord say, like, this is it.
Yeah.
Like, this is your rainbow, and this is your promise. And so yeah, I think never look back after that. But our relationship our relationship was really good, but we my parents were a little nervous
Yeah.
about,
Definitely.
it was scary for them, their daughter's overseas, halfway across the world, and she calls home and says, I've met someone,
Yeah.
and we believe we're gonna get married, like that really threw them for a loop.
Yeah.
For sure.
Considering how you were raised, right?
Yeah.
Like homeschooled and sheltered, but then also first of five, and
Yeah.
so it made sense.
Yeah. But our relationship was really fast. So we met in December of 2006, and we were engaged in
7707.
July 7th, 2007.
And then got married 11/3.
Got married in November of 2007. So less than a year after we met, we were married. So it was very quick. And a lot of that time was long distance.
It was.
So we both came back to our home states from where we were serving. Your season had you had committed a year, and your year was up.
Yeah.
And so he goes back to New Jersey, I go back to Georgia. And it was, it was a difficult time because my mom was battling cancer at that time, and I'm coming home from, being overseas, retransitioning back into life in the US, and then we're dating long distance.
Yeah.
So that was really hard. And so a lot of phone conversations, a lot of emails. And then you came to visit like a few times, I think, and I came to visit once in New Jersey. So when we got married, even though we knew each other, I kind of feel like we didn't really know each other.
Yeah, we didn't.
Because we knew like our core values.
Yeah, which was really important, right?
That's the most important things. Yeah, the foundational things, the most important things were there. Like we knew, like, our love for the Lord, our love for ministry. We could talk
path in life.
Yeah, path in life. But as far as our little like quirks and habits and like things that you can only learn by like being around each other, like the way, you know, you interact with your family or I interact with my family or friends, that kind of stuff. We didn't really see that
Yeah,
much.
we didn't.
So it was an adjustment.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
getting to know each other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it was good. I mean,
it's good.
we've had a really good marriage.
We have
We're coming up on 17 years
17
of
years.
marriage.
Yep.
We've had our ups and downs, our challenges for
Mhm.
sure. And I think we're going to talk about in another podcast, we're going to talk about the cultural challenge
Sure.
of our marriage because, you know, me being white American,
Mhm.
you being Korean American, when we got married, we did not think about that at all.
Yeah.
Like I really did not. Like we were just kind of like, I think we're kind of like oblivious.
Mhm.
And love is blind. Like in that sense, love is blind because I never really thought about your ethnicity and I just knew that I connected with you
Mm.
on like the most important things and
Right.
I knew you were the one for me and God was calling us to build a life together and we just got along really well. I mean, we just too, not just like I don't want it to just be like we connected on a spiritual level, but we like got each other's jokes.
Right. We laughed
You know,
a
we
lot
laughed
together.
together.
Too,
Like
you know.
we enjoyed spending time with each other. We just pretty compatible, I think, personality wise. But we didn't think about the challenges of like the cultural differences.
Right.
So when we got married, then things started coming out. Like we started our mindsets, my Western American white brain, his more Eastern Korean brain, even though you grew up mostly in America.
But I grew up in the Korean culture as well,
Yeah.
though, because of my parents, my grandmother, and going to a Korean church and all these things.
So that, you know, that came out. So there were some challenges there, but so we'll talk about that.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned because that'll be a good one.
How many podcasts are we doing?
As many as it takes.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. Thanks everybody
All right.
for listening.